This is Anastasia Gores from PilatesBridge.com. And today I'm talking to Adrianne Yurgosky. She's one of the co-founders of the Global Pilates Organization. The Global Pilates Organization is trying to build a community and establish standards for the Pilates community, for the Pilates industry. So I'm going to let Adrianne introduce herself, talk a little bit about the organization and what they're doing and the future of the Pilates industry as she sees it.
Sure. So my name is Adrianne Yurgosky. I actually am a studio owner and Pilates instructor. I have two studios in New York City, and with my husband, I also co-own Pilates Pro Maintenance. So we do maintenance on Pilates equipment worldwide, but mostly you'll physically see us on the East Coast. And then during COVID, started Global Pilates Organization as well as Global Pilates Association. So sometimes I know that confuses people, but uh, the whole reason why we started it was because I was very affected during the pandemic. I was sued, I was evicted, we was shut down for a very long time. And we realized at that time that we don't have an occupational code. We don't exist to the government. We aren't a unified body in that sense. In terms of legally, and it was really hindering us from reopening. At least for New York City, we were pushed into the gym category, and then we were even pushed out into the last phase, meaning we couldn't open, but yet other places could be open, and it didn't seem to make sense. So we decided to really come up with more of a we want it to be global, but unfortunately, the way that things work in terms of getting unified, we wanted to create ethical business and educational standards within the community. It doesn't mean that we're taking away from anybody's like business or programs, but really having some sort of basic guideline that most of us follow anyway, like for example, our cleaning protocols. But then the government knows, hey, they're already taking care of it, at least to this standard, and they know what our business is about. So that started during the pandemic of really trying to create something for the Pilates community to have that basis and bring people together. So we were doing Zooms every week. Different instructors were teaching the archival mat work and just pulling it, trying to bring that sense of community and also seeing what people need. Now, at least I think there's a lot of things that people do want and need it within the community, but what makes it challenging is that there are so many things that it's going to be one step at a time. So we were starting with just getting our footing with lobbying and creating at least a unified like standard in that sense that we all already do anyway, and then moving forward to adding on more and more for the community.
So just for those people who are not in New York State and they maybe like they have their restrictions were not as heavy during COVID. So with those standards, how setting up the standards would help or will help the businesses going forward, or if there's anything like that happens again, for example, with the COVID, and who knows what's going to be, but how can
Mhm.
that help in your vision?
So the tricky thing is that the United States is not unified. We have to go state by state.
Mm-hmm.
New York is one of the hardest states. So we already have a lobbyist group we're working with who actually know and take classical Pilates. We didn't even have to explain what Pilates is. They already got it. So that was great. And then we can move state by state. So once we have New York State in place, it sets the precedent for every other state. Until we do that in the US, they cannot do it worldwide. So people have been trying to do it in the UK and they've been trying in Canada, and they cannot do it until we start a precedent here. So it will begin to affect everyone else, but it will be a state by state. What I think is important to understand is that it will become more of a unified body and system. And that's what's important for people, that they have a place to go, that we actually do have ethical standards and you can't bash your colleagues or you'll lose your license. They
Mm-hmm.
have this in sports already. It's already, sportsmanship conduct. It shouldn't be any different in any other field. So it'd be similar to if you have your medical license as a doctor or you pass the bar exam, there's a certain level of respect that you provide to people. And then there's also a certain level of business standards, like I said, that most of us already abide by anyway. But then it will feel like you're in it together. I think with COVID, there was a group that was created at least for New York. I'm not sure about too many other states. But I think it felt very lonely sometimes where you didn't have a group of people to chat with, or even though some of the restrictions were different, we still felt like we were in the same loss or the same of, I don't know what to do next, or how, where can I get assistance? So I think the organization can really assist with that for sure. And that's where we would start to have representatives in each state so that we'd understand what people need in different areas of the country because it won't be the same in New York as it will be in California or as it will be in Ohio or Canada or Brazil. There will be different needs for sure. And that's where we'll have different branches come on in.
Okay. So what, I know you've started that during COVID. At what point, like at what stage are you right now with all your efforts? I know you're still working on the New York State, as you mentioned, but it's hard to give any idea of like the timelines or anything like that. So I'm not asking for that, but where do you feel like you guys are right now?
So we're in the fundraising phase in terms of that. We need the funding to be able to pay for the lobbyists. It's expensive. If anybody has ever looked into it, they know it's expensive. So we are still fundraising for that. The timeline process, they don't even know. They can't even tell me. But what I will say is it's going to take some time because of everything that will have to go back and forth with the state. What we do know is we have to be very prepared. So we're working on all of that preparation, working on having all of the funds ahead of time. We have to sign a minimum of a year contract. So just for the lobbying alone will cost us at least 60,000. Plus we have to create the lobbying entity, the lawyer fees, all of that. So let's just say a rough estimate of 100K we need in order just to start the process. And then it will take time back and forth. So we have already created our legislation piece in terms of what we're looking for in terms of our standards. So that's ready and we're prepared. But now we're working on the fundraising part. And once that gets set and in, while that is going on, we will be adding to it. So we do fundraising classes the third Saturday of every month where you can come and you can donate whatever you'd like and take a Pilates session. 100% of the proceeds will go directly towards lobbying. And I just want to tie it in here because I know I mentioned it earlier, but didn't actually discuss it. We have Global Pilates Organization, but we also have Global Pilates Association. And the difference with that is that one is a for profit and one is a nonprofit. And I get this question a lot, and I know it's tricky, so I'm always happy to answer any questions. Is that if we were only a not for profit, we can only use 20% of our profits to actually pay for lobbyists. We would not make enough money to get there in a short amount of time to actually achieve this goal for when we want. And that is an issue to me. I mean, I've been in the Pilates community for 17 years,
Mhm.
and it's I don't know, it's not acceptable in that sense of I want it to go faster.
Yeah.
So by having a for profit, we can give 100% of those proceeds directly to lobbying and put it into that fund. And that's exactly where that goes. So we have the nonprofit to help with our sponsors. If they want to donate, then they know that 20% will go towards lobbying and the rest will be going towards research funding, which we can also lobby for, which was an interesting loophole because research is like half a million to $1 million per paper, which is crazy. Or going towards scholarship funds to helping people who might want to go through the program who can't afford it. You know, we will be definitely adding to that, but then we can use the funds in the best way possible to support the
Mhm.
community.
Okay. Yeah, so that answers a lot of the questions. They are between the organization association. It is a confusing
Yeah.
topic there.
Yeah, it's a little confusing, but it's really the best way to serve the Pilates community because 20%, I mean, you think about if we need 100K, you'd really
That's
have
a
to be
lot.
fundraising a lot. And then what do you do with all that extra money? I mean, sure, you have to pay people and we'll have a board. Right now, everyone's volunteering. I'm volunteering 100% of my time
Mhm.
and energy to it. But at a certain point, it'd just be really nice to just get it done faster and have it there. So
Mhm.
it's really important for our organization to be very transparent about that. It's not like we're trying to hide anything, but it does serve the community better.
Okay. So, and you mentioned that a lot of like the lawyers that you've been working with and the teachers, they're all classically trained. So do you envision that your organization association is going to be more for the classically trained teachers or contemporary or mix? I know it's kind of like it's a
No.
gray zone in Pilates as well.
Yeah. So yes, the lobbyist she was did classical Pilates, and even though I'm classically trained, it will be for everyone. People who come to the classes or for the workshops we've done have been contemporary. So it's not we're not trying to segregate anybody out. It's everybody who who's doing Pilates. I think even contemporary or classical, like I said, it doesn't matter. You still have certain business standards that you abide by, certain cleaning standards. That should all be the same, regardless of necessarily the teaching methods in terms of that.
And so talk to us a little bit about those classes, the virtual classes. Who teaches those classes? Or what type of classes are they, like just for anybody, for the teachers, for the students?
Sure. So it's a different teacher every single month, which is
Mhm.
great because you can get a feel. What happened is during COVID when we were doing just Joe's original mat, and so different teachers were teaching that. I'll admit, even I was a little reluctant. I'm like, oh, I haven't taken with this person. I don't know. But full on honesty, I remember learning jackknife like completely different. And then I had to reread Joseph Play's book and be like, oh, he did do it that way. And so I was amazed by a little of the nuanced things that I learned that I don't think that I would have done on my own. And that's just shameful to even admit to say, but it is the truth. So I do love having a different teacher, and that's where you can donate whatever you'd like. So there's no harm in trying it and saying, okay, I'm going to come and okay, I'll spend $5, but you might really learn something and end up loving it. So it is a different teacher every single month. We post them on our website or we post them on social media, and then there's a direct link to it goes right into the GoFundMe page that you
Okay.
can donate to. And for those, it can be anybody. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It could be a teacher. It could be a Pilates enthusiast. We actually encourage people to invite their clients to come and take a session and see what that's like, especially if they want to add on a virtual. Because let's be honest, we need everyone in the community. It doesn't just have to be those Pilates instructors or studio owners. We want people who are passionate about Pilates to join our cause and to say, yes, it'd be nice to have some sort of regulation within the Pilates community and have a supportive body that's really there for whatever the needs come about. We also do not just the classes, but we have a conference that we've done every year, and those involve it's been different skill levels of things. So it hasn't just been Pilates. We've had ones about breath and juicing and about the hands and the feet. We've brought on medical doctors, physical therapists, because I think that that's also where some of the things are leading to, especially with the maintenance company that my husband and I own. We go into universities. Can't tell you how many universities have Pilates, and there is a different way to encompass different modes of exercise into your Pilates routine or something that you've forgotten about when you started learning to teach as well. So we do add on other realms, so it can really be for anybody. And have had clients show up, especially to our conferences, which was a little surprising because but they just were like, oh, I want to learn more about breath and I want to understand the diaphragm a little bit more. And so we do it a la carte where you can pick and choose what you like, or you can pay for the entire conference. It's been, I think the last one was 3 days, but otherwise it was 4 days. And then you receive the recordings as well. So if you can't attend, you're able to do it. Hopefully, I don't know if it'll be next year or the following, we'll be doing a hybrid. So we'll have some in person and we do virtual. And right now that is happening with our fundraising classes where we'll host them either at one of my studios or we'll have them at Real Pilates or, around depending on who's teaching. Like if someone's teaching out in California, we've had that where they've hosted in San Francisco and they have people who want to come and take it live. They can also attend live.
Okay. So with the conference, and I mentioned that it's virtual right now and planning on having it
Mhm.
hybrid. So is it annual? Do you have it several times a year? Like how often is the conference if people are interested?
So we've been doing them every year. We decided this past year to do it in April, and I guess April's not a great time. So we'll be sticking with June, which is what we had
June.
before. So it'll be every June that we'll have a conference and just kind of have different people on board, different learning. This past time was a theme of hands and feet and breath. So we kind of encompassed what that would be around it. And for this next one, we haven't decided. It'll probably be out by the end of the year of what we're going to do our theme with, but each year will be something different for sure.
Okay. So, and then where can people learn about your upcoming conferences? On which one of the websites or on both?
So it's always better, I think, to go to Global Pilates Organization because
Okay.
that's really like our founding body. It will have a link to go to the association, but honestly, the association is just then another layer, which will have its own board and work with the
Mhm.
nonprofit stuff. So all of that information will be on Global Pilates Organization, where it may not be vice versa because the one's the nonprofit. So everything will be on there from our conferences to anything that we're doing. You can sign up for our newsletter. We will, like I said, be adding more, but we are in those kind of infant stages of getting the fundamentals really together. And I have a lot of ideas of what I want to do, but I also would love for people to get on board or help out in any which way that they can. And, I know sometimes people are like, well, that's hard if I can't donate money. It's not just money. We need time. We need people who want to volunteer anything if they know about fundraising, if they can help out with organizing the website. I have a whole list of sheets of different like jobs,
Mhm.
volunteer jobs that we need assistance with, or even if it's just getting the word out, because all of that little bit is going to be so helpful. And also just knowing what the community needs. I mean, that's a big help too. Like I said, I know there's a long list, but we need them. We'll have them on our list, and then we'll keep checking them off to be like, okay, this is our next step. This is how we're going to build, because all of that is very important. I think um, we sometimes feel a little scattered especially if we don't know people who are in our community or even in the neighboring state or other states. Just knowing how people do things, I know it's really nice to have a support system. So I want that to start to become more of the feel of the organization as well, and we haven't quite gotten there yet. We've gotten there with our tiny group, but it's too small you know
So right now, for the people the teachers who want to be part or who want to learn more and support, the best way would be obviously to try to take some of the virtual classes, sign up for the conference when the information is out, or contact you or use the website to contact somebody about the volunteering, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely contact me. I love like brainstorming with people, talking to people, because I think, as I was chatting with someone the other day, is that there are a lot of um, wings to the organization, or smaller subchapters that we don't even know exist yet. And if someone's willing or wants to create a part of it, or they have something in mind, come share. Like, let's start to add those things. Let's start to do some of those things, because it can't be one person, it can't be two people, it can't be three people. Like, it really has to be a full community to do that. And I think that's one of the big key things to actually supporting the community and seeing, where we can go from here. Because since our goal is, and I've spoken to actually specifically more people in Germany, UK, and Canada, because people have reached out to me, and I know that they are striving for some of the same things but can't get there because the US is almost blocking some of that precedent. And so I think it's really important to bring on some different ideas of how they can assist or help in other ways, or even what they're looking for in their community. Even if it can't happen right away, we keep a running list of docket, because we got to keep striving for
Yeah.
it, even if we can't get there yet. Because I know that this process, it's going to take some time,
Hmm.
and you think about some of the blocks that people have had in the past, and how to get there. It's just going to take time, but I'm in it for the long haul. And I already been here for 17 years and keep
Yeah.
adding on more, that it's like, all right. And I think that's one of the good things, is like, I'm not going away. It doesn't matter how long it takes. Because it's happened in the past. A lot of people have really great ideas and they want these things, but it's hard to implement.
Mhm.
And just because it's hard doesn't mean you have to keep going. Just the same way in Pilates, you think about the first time you do the 100, you're like, oh my goodness. But but yeah, it gets better and easier. So yeah, I think yeah, signing up, meeting us, at the classes or the conference is great. Again, 100% of those proceeds go, towards lobbying, but also contacting me directly. Best way is email to contact me, though I will admit that because I do get a lot of messages in different forms. So, and I always do reply, and it stays there until I reply. So, best way.
Can I ask you one more? Like, I know you
Yeah.
mentioned that it's really important for you just to build a community. So is there, and I know you're still working on that piece of the puzzle, is there any part or any place where people who are interested that they can come together and even just talk, or whether it's like locally or online, or just kind of to get to know, oh, you're supporting this, or this is what you're going through. Is there any part of that that's in the works?
So we had it, but there was too much going on for me that I couldn't continue because did something live on Instagram, and it was like too much for me
Mm.
to do that at that point in time because during COVID I renovated 3 times my studios. Like it was horrific. It wasn't even by choice. So I needed just some time. But now, especially with September now happening, we've regaining some of that momentum and strength and saying, okay, we've got to bring these things back. So yes, it will be coming back. I don't know if it's going to start for October or if it's going to start for January. It would be posted up on social media or on our website because yes, it would just be a place where I'm available for half hour, and people can come on in and chat or
Mhm.
anything that they want. Anything would be on the
Okay.
basically on the docket. Or if somebody said something ahead of time, then we can put that and say, hey, we're going to chat about this time. But yes, that will be coming back soon.
Awesome. Okay, so what is just the last question for you? If you look at all your work and everything that you're doing right now and your vision and everything, where do you see the Pilates community and the Global Pilates Organization as part of it being 10 years down the road?
Oh, I don't know if it'll make it
Ideally.
quite on. Yeah, as I say, I hope it's 10 years, but it may take a little longer. What I'd like to see is kind of having already basically a community board. So there is a place where people they can go to, they can come, they can ask all of their questions, everything will be there. There will be kind of like a governing body, if you will, so that there's people that one can actually speak with if they're having trouble with their studio or they want help negotiating their lease terms or anything along those lines. I'd like to see also a good amount for continuing education, and a lot of people ask for continuing education, but it will be a different type of continuing education. And I don't want to elaborate too much on that because it will depend on what the state kind of come back to us with. But we have some ideas of things that would be nice for the Pilates community to be able to have a diverse selection in terms of that. Um, I also would like to see a full uh, scholarship fund, so people who want to learn and to teach, they be able to have the opportunity, whether it's a section of their funding or the whole thing funded, that we have different opportunities that will be presented. We'll hopefully have some full on, sponsorships to be able to provide that to just be able to have a tax code and an occupational code, which will help us to be able to take insurance if we want to allow it open for more people to have it. Pilates to be accessible.
Mhm.
Yes, we already have it in some universities and hospitals, but bringing that in more to say, okay, how can we work together? And to kind of showcase Pilates across the board and say, we're not just someone who gets certified in just one weekend. Like these are people who really take the time to learn what they're doing, and to have that type of um, structure there. And also accessibility to all of the educational archival pieces that have been out there that, people learning more about Joseph Pilates' life and learning more about the history of Pilates and having that be accessible. And also really funding for research. I know I mentioned that before, but it's quite expensive. We already have a person who will be head of our research team, and the two biggest blocks are money and equipment. And I know I can definitely already help with some equipment, and
Mhm.
we fix up stuff all the time, but fundraising and getting that, and yeah, scholarships, really having, I'd also like to see, one other thing too was just having also like almost a business outlet for people. I've spoken with a lot of people who are like, "Hey, I want to start a Pilates studio and I don't really know where to go." There's not a lot of information out there. There's not a lot of education on that either. And being able to support business owners. And even if, I think this is also the biggest one, even if you don't want to, let's say you get certified and you're like, "I don't want to teach full time, but I want to do something else with Pilates and I don't know what to do with my certification and I don't want to own a business." What do you do? And I think that there's a lack of understanding and knowledge in terms of what are all my options. And so I'd like to be able to have a full, I guess, almost like a system in place where it's like, okay, understanding these are all of my options of what I can do with Pilates, or even having people create them so that it's available to know, like, oh, you could work with people with MS or go into the hospital and you want to, be ahead of the program, or there's different options, and I think a lot of people just don't know about them, and also myself included. I'm sure that there's a ton out there that I just don't know that even exist. But I
Mhm.
think that's a big thing that I get a lot too. So just having that information and being a part of something, and also continuing obviously with conferences and groupings and being able to have them worldwide and being able to support people worldwide. And I know that support looks different in different ways, but yeah, that's where I hope to see. I mean, like, there's a lot of different sub chapters, I know. So it's hard to put it all together, but I think those are some of the main things I'd like to see, and I think those for the most part are fairly achievable in 10 years for sure.
Well, thank you so much, Adrian. No, it sounds like a really great ideas that you have and your plans. We just, I really hope that everything will come to fruition and it will be actually realized in 10 years or maybe even earlier, or at least some parts of it. So we're going to leave the information about your website under this video so anybody can go and just, even if they just start by following your social profiles to begin with, signing up for
Yeah.
the newsletter, just keeping up with everything that you're doing, being able to sign up for the classes, help in any way with it between the fundraising, volunteering, or just support sharing the organization and maybe some of your posts and virtual classes on their social.
Perfect.
Every little bit is always helpful when you're trying
Yep.
to spread the word.
For sure. And I just want to say too, like, I just hope people have patience with us because I know that it takes, I'd love to do everything right now, but I know it's going to take time. So even if you're like, oh, this isn't up yet or they haven't done this yet, know that it's all on the list. But, we need more people to help out and to volunteer to be able to get those things done. So I do think good things take time. And, it's like the tortoise and the hare,
Yeah.
you go slow and steady, and I really want this to come into play and stay for future instructors and to support people who are here. So I know it's gonna take some time, but just have some patience because I'm in it for the long haul for sure.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Adrian, for this interview and for telling us about the Global Pilates Organization.
Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it.